There's an astonishing story in the New York Slimes. Now, of course, they take the side of tyranny, but it's an astonishing story nonetheless. Not long ago, Al Gore insisted that prosecutors, investigators probe ExxonMobil. Because, you see, they have been lying about global warming. Follow me on this. This is amazing. If they can do it to ExxonMobil, trust me, they can do it to each one of you. Hillary Clinton, after ExxonMobil stopped giving money to their money laundering operation, their foundation and library, she was hesitant to call for an investigation of ExxonMobil. But now she calls for an investigation after they cut off their funds to that phony foundation of hers. And so here's the headline that drew my attention in the New York Slimes. ExxonMobil investigated in New York over possible lies on climate. Is there some law, some state or federal law? And they go on. The New York Attorney General has begun a sweeping investigation of ExxonMobil to determine whether the company lied to the public about the risks of climate change or to investors about how those risks might hurt the oil business. Ladies and gentlemen, you're living in some of these states that are run by absolute, mindless tyrants. Tyrants. This is what they do in fascist countries. This is how they target businessmen. They target businesses. They target political opponents. They criminalize events. They criminalize conduct. And then they sick their investigators and prosecutors on them. And this is what's going on in New York right now. Think you live in a free constitutional republic? You don't. According to people with knowledge of the investigation. So now we have the Attorney General's office in New York leaking this. Attorney General Eric T. Schneiderman issued a subpoena last night to ExxonMobil demanding extensive financial records, emails, and other documents. The focus includes the company's activities dating to the late 1970s, 40 years ago, including a period of at least a decade when ExxonMobil funded groups that sought to undermine climate science. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if this doesn't shake you to your core, very little will. Very little will. You know, in the state of Wisconsin, about a year ago, investigators and prosecutors out of Democrat offices unleashed a jihad against Governor Walker, Governor Walker's supporters, organizations, looking for information that they believe would demonstrate that crimes were committed in the various issues and elections that Walker went through. And finally, I believe it was a federal judge, stood up and said, that's enough. This is an outrage. And it was an outrage, and it is an outrage today. You have to be nuts to have any business presence in the state of New York. I'm sorry, folks, it's true. This isn't the only attorney general in that state who's conducted himself this way. This guy is nuts, this Schneiderman. And they do not mind using these tyrannical tactics. They have no conscience whatsoever. And we're going to get into this a little bit more thoroughly. A major focus of the investigation is whether the company adequately warned investors about potential financial risks stemming from society's need to limit fossil fuel use. We now have a criminal assault on those who produce oil and gasoline in this country and electricity in this country. A criminal assault going on.